Welcome to this special edition of Nothing But Net. I'm Dave Rudin, and we've got our two FCIAC boys basketball finalists after last night's semifinals. We've got a little bit of a surprise with number 4 seed Staples in a real impressive performance in the best game of the tournament so far, taking down the top seed Ridgefield, number 2 team in the state, 73-57. First loss for the Tigers all year in FCIAC play. And joining them will be number 2 seed Trumbull, which, like Staples, erased a big first half deficit, came away with a 47-41 win over Danbury. And one of the big storylines, we're going to have a champion that has not been a champion in a long time. Joining me to break down the two games last night and tomorrow's championship, as always, Mike Walsh. Mike, how you doing?
Great. I think it's as you said, great storyline. Staples versus Trumbull. Trumbull last time in 82-83 and Staples 61, 1961. A few years ago. I was only 14 years old then, I think. But anyway.
It was 63. It was 63, I think, for
60, well, whatever. But
yeah, I mean, it's been a long time, and I went back after I looked at the second of those Trumbull wins, which was the Harold Jensen game and Tim Trott in New Canaan. I remember being there. It was packed at the field house. That was the last game that we had two suburban schools, and Ridgefield wasn't one of them.
No, I was there at that game myself. And Harold Jensen was terrific. Sam Chichinski and his boys at Trumbull, they were a dominant team for a couple of years there, and they beat a New Canaan team, I believe, under Donnie Usher, who had Monroe Trout and a few other really good players.
No, those were fun days. It goes to show you how the balance has changed in the FCIAC. In terms of, city schools just dominated until the last 5 or 6 years. And now the league's kind of been flipped around into suburban schools for the most part, outside of really Danbury have had the success. But why don't we get into the talk of the night after Trumbull's win kind of got a little bit overshadowed by Staples and sophomore Sam Klocko's 40-point performance, just a tour de force performance by him. And I went back and looked at my notes. What makes it all the more impressive, 37 of those points came in the last 20 minutes and 17 seconds. Ridgefield actually defended him really well for the first 15 minutes. Klocko hit Staples' first points with a 3-point shot, and then he was locked up in the half-court offense. And then Ridgefield was able to build a big 10-point lead, and then Staples and Klocko heated up, and the rest is history.
Well, listen, I've been watching the FCIAC Championship basketball for a lot of years, and I don't remember a better performance than that, especially when you put it in the context of in 20 minutes, he scored 37 points. And not only that, but they were big shots. Ridgefield came back and they made it like a 3-point game, and he come down and hit a 3. I knew it was going to be Staples' night, though. One time he came down and he shot the 3 from the top of the key, went up in the air and hit the back rim and came down and went in. And when those shots start falling, you have a good chance to win. I thought that Dave Golshaw made a good point. He said, when you make your shots, you have a chance to.
Sometimes the game is real basic. And talking about making shots, Staples has such a great basketball website. As good. You get the box scores that night, detailed box scores. And I went this morning and talking about making shots. This was the key stat of the game, and I didn't realize it until I just looked it up. 3-point shooting last night. Staples 11 for 25. Ridgefield 1 for 16. You make 11 of 25 shots, you're not 3-point shots, you're not losing. You make 1 of 16, you're not winning.
Right, and I think the game plan for Ridgefield and Andrew was to go inside to Skanga and they did a decent job of it. They were actually up 20-10 in the beginning of the game, but they could have been up 30-10. They missed some easy shots, layups inside, and I think Staples was pretty physical, and maybe that bothered them a little bit. But then Staples just came right at him, and I couldn't believe the score. They tied it 25-25 at the end of almost the end of fourth halftime, and Skanga hit a basket to make it 27-25. But their comeback and the fact that Richfield missed opportunities, I think, lended to the fact that they could make shots in the second half and beat Richfield. And when, as you said, you make shots, you look pretty good, and they made shots. Unbelievable.
I think you hit on two real key points. Number one, Ridgefield should have had a much bigger lead. They pounded the ball and successfully so. Wilton did it for a stretch in the quarterfinals. It was a perfect game plan, and Staples couldn't stop them. But Ridgefield just kept missing shots within 3-4 feet of the basket. I don't know what their percentage was, but you don't expect them to be 100%. But they easily could have had 6 to 10 more points there. And then the run Staples made before halftime changed the game around. But if they had been making their shots, Ridgefield still goes up into the locker room up by 6, 8, say 8 points instead of 2 points. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have just meant that Staples would have taken a little bit longer to take the lead in the second half. But I thought that was real integral to the outcome.
No, I agree. I agree with that. And I think part of that has to do with the physicality of Caleb Smith and Nick Sikorsky inside. They battled on Skanga, and they made it tough for him to score the layups. And he missed. And again, that second half splurge by Staples was really something. I mean, the shooting in the second half was incredible. And Richfield came down. They score maybe inside or to the basket. Staples come down and hit a three, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And the one thing that surprised me is that Richfield didn't come to pressure a little bit sooner. They kind of let the game flow come as it was, and then all of a sudden they started pressing down about 10. They turned them over the first time with a 1-2-2 at half court, and they forced a bad shot the next time. But I thought I'm surprised they were a little bit late in trying to pressure them a little bit, because Staples, they have good ball handlers, but they don't really have that solid point guard. Udall is the closest. He did a great job, by the way.
Yeah, I want to get to him in a second.
How many assists did Udall have?
This was the other stat that I didn't realize. I'm kicking, Klocko and, magnificent. He overshadowed a brilliant game by Udall. He had 15 points, 11 assists, 8 rebounds.
Wow.
And had 6 straight points bridging the end of the third, start of the fourth quarter. That was part of the run where Staples took the lead for good. And then it just snowballed. I think Ridgefield was shell-shocked. I think they just got shell-shocked. I'm looking at the sideline, and there was actually hardly any movement at all. I just think they were shocked by how hot Staples got, and they moved the ball, and they were just getting open looks. Ridgefield's a good defensive team, but they just got blitzed over the last.
Well, I think they really ran. Not to interrupt, but I thought they really ran some good sets where they were able to get screens and free up Sam Klatsko, and Udall would be driving to the basket, and they didn't rotate like they usually do, and he made some layups. I don't know if a shell shocked is a word, but they were very surprised. Let's put it that way. Maybe that's and they didn't adjust. And I think when they got behind, it was like, I can't believe this is happening. And they gave 110%, that's for sure, but they couldn't stop Staples and their hot shooting. And Staples walks away for the second year in a row, knocking Richfield out of the FCIACs.
Yeah, they've kind of got they've become Ridgefield's main nemesis over the last 2 years. And I just lost my train of thought what I wanted to say. It was just yeah, Staples just a brilliant performance by them, an absolute brilliant performance by Sam Clacko. People will be talking about this game for a long time in Westport. Uh, why don't we go switch over to the other game right now, which was Trumbull's 47-41 win over Danbury. And I thought Casey Bach, the Danbury coach, did a great job coming out in a 3-2 zone. And the 3-2 zone, in combination with the backdrop at Wilton, which is really hard to get used to if you haven't shot there before, or even if you have played there. Trumbull came out and they were 2 for 18 to start the game, shooting the ball, and turned the ball over 5 times and fell behind 22-9. Danbury, a good start. The Perkins cousins were playing well and scoring. And to Trumbull's credit, they didn't really make too many adjustments because they didn't have to. I talked to Buddy Bray. I talked to Ryan Johnston. I talked to Owen Bull after. And sometimes it's just as Dave Goldshaw said, sometimes your shots, it's just going in. Trumbull shots just weren't going in, but they were getting good looks, and they basically just stuck to what they were doing, got hot, and had the big second half run. How'd you see it?
Well, I was a tale of two halves, obviously. With Staples in that first, Danbury in that first half, got ahead 20-10, and Trumbull looked totally out of sync, as you say, 2 for 18 shooting, and Casey Bach made a really, really good move going to that 3-2 zone, and I'm sure that Trumbull practiced against it, and they were getting open shots. I thought they had to up tempo it a little bit, which they did in the second half. And they were, their fast break started going. They started hitting some shots. They got Ryan Johnson open. I thought the biggest factor in that game was that Cam Johnson couldn't do it all. Cam Perkins. Cam started out, he hit the 3, and he scored some points inside. He really had to work hard to score. And in the second half, I think he kind of wore down a little bit. I think Owen Bull did a pretty good job on him defensively. He ended up with 23 points, but he worked very hard for those 23 points. And the whole entire team only scored 41. So obviously you're relying on one person to make a lot of baskets. And, that's a credit, I think, to the defense on Trumbull in that second half, especially. They were able to hold them down and kind of wore them down. And, then they made the shots. And Buddy had a lot of confidence that they were going to make those shots. I don't know if I would have had that same confidence, but he really did. And Ryan Johnson came through, and some of the other guys started getting baskets. It's really, I think, a credit to the tenacity that they showed, but also, the fact that Danbury was, they relied so much on Cam, and he's a great, terrific player. And unfortunately for Danbury, he came up short, but Trumbull, you got to give them a lot of credit. They got behind and they didn't panic, and then they started making shots, and they're playing Staples in the championship game. I think the ironic, not to get into the championship game right now, but the ironic thing is their coach from 2 years ago at Staples, who's a terrific guy and terrific coach, is now coaching as an assistant at Trumbull, and that's Colin Devine. I don't know where his loyalties are. I texted him this morning saying, must be a great day at Staples for you in physical education. You have to worry about what's going on and how to stop Sam Clacko when he might be in your phys ed class. I don't know. But this interesting matchup coming up is really something that thrills me. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, credit to Ryan Johnston, who's had a great year, and he finally got on track in the second half. and that obviously was a big part of the offense. Credit to the defense. Owen Bull's defensive performance, I think people think we sing, maybe think we sing his praises too much, but we don't. Cam Perkins scored 23 points, but like you said, he had to work for those 23. He was tired at the end of the game. And that's not a criticism of Cam. He wasn't getting any offensive support, and that when Danbury has struggled this year, that's really been why is he's had to do it himself. But Trumbull's defense definitely also got overlooked in the game. They played with real tenacity, and if you look at and it was such a low scoring game. But Danbury only had 8 points in the first 12 minutes and 20 seconds of the second half.
Wow.
If you hold the team to 8 points and you score just a little bit, you're going to win the game. That's really what fueled the comeback. Is they were able to keep Danbury from scoring, building the lead, and that allowed once the shooters started to warm up for them to come back.
No question about it. And as I said, you give credit to the defense on Trumbull and Ryan Johnson for making the threes. And Owen Bull, not only did he play defense, and I thought he gives them a presence. Like he kind of like slows them down, gets them into the offense when they have to. He's not a point guard, but it almost looks like he's a point guard because he must have hit Johnson for about 2 or 3 of those open 3-point shots. So he's an integral part of that whole team, and maybe we overemphasize it, but they have some other players obviously too. I thought Brandon Fowler played a good game and made some pretty good decisions. I think he hit a 3 too in that second half. And
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't interrupt.
I mean, they have 5 or 6 guys that can put the ball in the basket, and that's what makes them dangerous.
I think the guy that's really been coming on and gotten a lot more consistent over the last 4 or 5 games has been Sean Wilson. On the defense, he's being a little bit more judicious with his shot selection, and he just plays such good defense and rebounds so well. It's a vital component, and he's just a sophomore. He's going to be one of the stars of the league the next 2 years. Do you know? And we talked about this a little. I asked Buddy before the game. Who do you think is Trumbull's leading rebounder?
I would say that Sam Wilson might be right there. I think
he's number 2. I was wondering if Wilson was number 1, but who do you think's number 1?
Well, I mean, it could be Bull if they count him when he's in there, but I don't know. He missed about 3 or 4 games, but. I don't know.
I was surprised it's Fowler.
It is Fowler, huh?
Fowler, yeah. He's, for his size, he's another one. There are a lot of players this year. There's not a lot of height in the league. There's a lot of players that rebound much better than their size.
Yeah, they're kind of interchangeable when you look at Trumbull, which is kind of, I think, helpful to them. I think that. To be honest with you, I think that the rebounding is going to be a key when they play in the championship game. If they can rebound and they can, play the defense that they played earlier in the year, it should be interesting. But anyway, you want to get on to that, or we're just going to finish this up?
We are going to get on to that now, and it's going to be before we kind of break things down. I think the top storyline is going to be the one, the teams and how long they've gone without a title. That's one of them. The other one, and this was the case 6 years ago. It's kind of interesting. Dave Goldshaw's making his second appearance in a final in 2 years, and credit to him and the great job that he's done since taking over. Buddy Bray's in his 34th year, and he's going to be in his second final. So, to me, and this will be a story I post hopefully later today. And I didn't think I'd be able to get this story, but Buddy Bray's 34 years, distinguished career, and he doesn't have a title. Just because it was the first game, I had a little bit more time to do interviews in between, and I didn't think he was going to really answer this. But I talked to Buddy about whether his career maybe felt incomplete without having won a title. And he's one who always he hasn't done a post-game interview where he hasn't credited the other team first. And he never talks about himself, but I actually got him to talk a little bit about, what not winning a title, does he feel incomplete, and just what it would mean to him. So I think that was a big storyline 6 years ago when they were in the final against Stanbury. He was 28 years and hadn't won a title. I think that's going to be a big storyline. It's obviously has nothing to do with who's going to win the game, but I think that's one of the biggest storylines is Buddy and his quest for that elusive title.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And it's ironic that one of his best friends in the coaching community and as a friend is Colin, and he's come over to help him out. And I think he, along with his other assistant, have done a great job in helping Buddy get this team together and get to the finals. And it's
you coached against Buddy for a long time. Why? Talk a little bit about Buddy as a coach.
Buddy is to me anyway. He's a great has great strategy when it comes into the game. He knows exactly what he wants to do. His teams play hard man to man for the most part, and they run excellent offense. They used to anyway, and I think that he's the type of guy that works his kids hard. The kids respond. And he's been very successful. And sometimes it's a lot of luck that you win an FCIAC championship. I was fortunate to win a few, and a lot of that was, a basket here or there that we made that the other team didn't make, or a shot that we made, as Dave Golshaw said, and the other team didn't. But Buddy, forget all that stuff, the X's and O's, and he's just a great guy. He always gives credit to the other team, regardless, and he gives credit to his kids. He's kind of like the guy who he kind of wants to be in the background. And I do the coaching, but the kids do the playing type thing. And I've respected Buddy for so many years. And I'm not rooting against Dave Golshaw and Staples, but I wouldn't mind seeing Buddy get his first title.
From a writer's perspective, I think you hit all the key points. And I'm a writer. I always root for the good game. I hope Buddy at some point before he retires wins the title. I don't want to single out against any opponent. I don't, like I said, but it'd be nice to see Buddy win the title at some point. No disrespect at all to Staples, and they, why don't we get to the game now? Two questions for you based on what we've seen so far in the tournament. If you're Staples, do you open the game in a zone against Trumbull? And if you're Trumbull, and I'm not sure who the player would be, and that might mitigate doing this, do you try to pound the ball into the middle and do what Wilton and Ridgefield did successfully, though I don't know who the player would be other than maybe Bull that you try to get the ball inside to.
Well, I don't know if they're going to try and pound the ball inside, to be honest with you. That's really not their game.
That's not their game, yeah.
Yeah, their game is to get the break going, move the ball around, reverse it, and look for the open three-point shot. Or if that's not there, they'll drive to the basket. Ryan Johnson really goes to the basket hard. Sam Wilson goes to the basket hard. I think that will be the key offensively. And as far as defensively for Trumbull, they're going to obviously be aware of Sam Klatsko and where he is, and they try to have a guy in his face at all times. They have a guy like Bull who's a little taller, and I think he can give him some trouble. And they also have Sam Wilson with his quickness. But, Klatsko's a smart player. And Staples runs some really good stuff to get him open. At least
Klatsko passes the ball really well too, which he did again last night. For someone kind of like Jaylen Brown, someone who scored 40 points, he passed up some shots that others might have taken to get the ball to teammates who are in a better position.
Yeah, he did. He made some great passes, and he has Udall who does shuts him up also. And I think that this is going to be an interesting game because I think both teams are kind of alike in a way. I mean, obviously, excuse me, Sam Klatchko is a scorer and a passer. He handles the ball. He does everything for Staples. Ryan Johnson is a scorer for Trumbull. Bull is a defensive player. You have on the other side Caleb Smith, used to winning state championships in football. And as you tell me, Owen Bull is probably the top soccer player in the state of Connecticut, maybe even in New England. And you look at the other guys, Fowler, he's pretty similar to Udall a little bit. And I think that if you look at some of the other players, there's a comparison there that they're neither one is a big team. They rely on their shooting and they have to make shots. And they're tough on defense. They'll take charges and they get after it. So I mean that's what makes the interesting matchup. It's to me this is a game which is going to go whoever shoots the ball better is going to win. Obviously, that's probably an oversimplification, but I mean I think that's what's going to happen in a game like that. And in the end, though, what happens is who shuts who down in the defense, and so those shots can't be made. But I'm really looking forward to watching this game.
I was at their first meeting at Staples, and I'm looking at the stats right now. And Staples won. Trumbull came away with a 16-point win. And you talk about Trumbull's defense. Staples shot 27% from the field that game, which I'm guessing was a season low. Klacko was 4 of 15 and was held to 13 points in that game. So those were a couple of key stats. And Sean Wilson, 13 rebounds in that game. So, I mean, talk about Johnston had 17. That was a game Bull didn't play. So, kind of in line what we're talking about, we're talking a lot today about just making baskets, which again is the root of the game. The team that scores more points wins. But you look at what happened in the first game, and it really came down to playing defense and who made the most shots. I'm kind of
that was a close game though, wasn't it? In the beginning of the first half.
It was a close game for a while, and then Trumbull kind of blew them out in the fourth quarter, maybe late in the third. I'm kind of interested to see how Trumbull's going to defend Klacko. I think after someone scores 40 points, you're going to be aware of him and try to, are they gonna throw a specific defense at him and hope that some of the other 3-point shooters don't step up? And then I think it's going to be some of these other guys, a Udell, a Sean Wilson, a Fowler, a Sikorsky, who's from your first FCIAC championship win that everybody thinks you beat an undefeated Fairfield team back. It was 93, right? And you ask everybody who was your MVP, and I bet you 100% of the people say it was Rashmel Jones when it ended up being Bobby Spillane. So
Rashmel that night he had a terrible night. Actually, he only had about 8. Actually, the other guy besides Bobby Spillane was a little freshman named Earl Johnson. But
who's going to be the Bobby Spillane tomorrow night? I know we're not. It's probably about 10 people listening to this know what we're talking about. But it's going to be somebody that a lot of times it's somebody you don't expect. I'm trying to think of the Ridgefield player who stepped up either 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember who it was, but
Garrity.
No, there was somebody who you wouldn't think of. I can see his face and I can't think of his name, but it was somebody you wouldn't necessarily expect who stepped up and had a big game. So that tends to happen in the finals, and you get somebody who you consider a secondary player who gets into a starring role. Who's that going to be?
Well, I don't consider Udall a secondary player. He's key, but I think he's going to be an important player tomorrow night. if he can get to the basket and score some points and set things up for Klasko, I think Staples has a good chance. Sikorsky, if he's hitting his outside shots, he's a tough kid though. He goes inside too.
You know what? He fouled out yesterday, and that actually isn't a knock. It's actually a testament to how hard he was playing on defense and trying to bang around with Skanga. You almost didn't mind that he fouled out of the game.
Yeah, no, I thought he did a tremendous job in there. And, like you say, he's another candidate for Staples. On the other side, we talk about Bull all the time, but Fowler has been a big presence. And who knows, maybe Joey DeMarco is going to bang a few threes for Trumbull.
It could be Joey. Joey threes could be my candidate for the Trumbull
Joey
candidate.
three, I don't know. And
sleeper.
Let's not forget Sam Wilson. I don't know if you consider him an unsung hero, but he's going to be really important. I think making good decisions and rebounding and playing defense.
And the MVP is going to be somebody we haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah,
that's the way it works. And this is a little bit of and believe it, I think I told you I'm a Staples grad, and I get accused of either I like them too much, or I was accused last week ridiculously that I hate my alma mater, which I won't even get it now. But this is Staples male sports and the highly publicized sports. They're coming off of they just won the state championship and #1 ranking in the state in football. They just won the boys lacrosse state title on the same time that their baseball team got to the state championship game and lost a 1-0 heartbreaker extra inning game. And now basketball, sports Staples hasn't had much success, and this has been a really, really nice run the last few years for Staples.
Well, you have to be proud of them as a Staples graduate, correct?
The graduate part of me, I'm really proud of. The sports writer in me, I forgot that I'm a Staples grad a long time ago, and Staples is one of 16 teams that I cover. But as a graduate of the school, obviously I'm proud of this success, and I've always been. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now as a political science major, in part because of the college and high school education I got. So. I don't live there right now, but I'll always be a Westporter at heart.
Well, I think the good thing about Staples, they have some excellent coaches there. You mentioned the sports where they're successful, and and so does Trumbull. I mean, the AD at Trumbull, Mike King, has done a great job assembling coaching staffs and helping the coaches out as far as being successful. The girls' teams have been pretty successful. This year they had injuries, but they've been successful in the past. Buddy Bray has just been an institution in the FCIAC. He told me last night that he may be thinking of getting out after his sophomore class. And I was there 40 years. Buddy, you only need 6 more. Hang around. You can be the same as me.
I don't know when Buddy's gonna. I think Buddy's on the nearing the finish line. But the finish line's not going to be this year. I'm almost certain. Just before, and we're just about to close out, we'll do our normal podcast on Monday, looking back on the final and looking a little bit ahead to the state championship. But I told you, Greg Simon was from the CIAC was at the game last night, and I talked to him for about 10 minutes or so before. A very cordial conversation in terms of when are we going to fix the state playoffs. And his line was sort of, it's working out well, but he did acknowledge, and he said Division I is much better this year, and I acknowledge that it's not perfect, but a big improvement. We'd like to see Windsor there. We Greenwich Fairfield Prep. Probably should be somewhere else, but some of the scenarios that I've raised in the past, he said have been discussed. So I don't know if, and I know you and I will probably go on our usual little bit of a rant next week. I know I will, in terms of having to fix this ridiculous state tournament. But like I said, I had a good talk with Greg Simon. It's not, I told him I rant because I care. If I didn't care, I wouldn't rant.
No, and I think he kind of likes your idea of Division One and then going double LLMNS,
He said
which
that's been, yeah, he said that's been brought up. I said, yeah, look at me at my story 3 years ago.
we've been talking about that for years, Greg. Come on, and they're finally
But
maybe
see the
catching.
tournament, and then everybody else reverts back to double LLMS. So we'll see. That's a discussion for discussion for Monday and beyond. But that's our special episode of Nothing But Net Preview Edition. Again, I want to thank Mike Walsh and a special shout out to Cooper Boardman, who also is a Staples graduate and handles the sound editing for allowing us to do these two special podcasts. Enjoy the game tomorrow night, everybody, and we'll be back with you on Monday.